since we are from mechanical background and that's a tech role, right? So was there any difficulties bridging the gap between these two?
When you go to NIT, you kind of expect like placements are gonna be great, like you are gonna earn in lakhs and crores and whatnot. The reality is not at all like that. One of the best highlights of my Google career, I would say, was meeting Sundar Pichai. I had a dilemma between government jobs and private jobs, and data analytics is an amazing field. There is tremendous amount of opportunity here.
Hello everyone. Today we have Amit with us. Amit works as a senior strategist at Google, and Amit has a very interesting journey to share. He has done his bachelor's in mechanical engineering and then worked as a business analyst at Wells Fargo, and later he pursued his MBA before he joined Google. So let's learn more from Amit's journey. So welcome Amit, welcome to this podcast.
Thank you, Hari. Thank you for inviting me, first of all, and thank you for organizing this for all the students and all the aspirants out there. So I'm just glad to be here, and I think you gave me a very good introduction. I will just add on like a couple of things. I have done my MBA in general management, and being at Google, I'm currently a senior strategist with the Android team. So we manage all the Android application security for all the Android users over the world.
Yeah, great. That's a great introduction. So let's go into your journey. So how was your class 10th and 12th? How did you go by? So can you just give you a brief about that?
I think you are taking me back to the 90s and the old days. So 10th was actually during my schooling, as always, academically oriented. So I did well in my studies. I got around 94%. I studied in convent schools, St. Xavier's and St. Mary's. So I had a good understanding of English language and the curriculum for state board. Right. I was able to score well, 94%, as I said, which kind of convinced my parents to make sure I have a direction in my future journey. So we got a chance to understand about what future aspirations are available. And from one of my uncles, I heard IIT is a college for the first time. So that was something which fascinated me at that point. I think it was not advertised as much. And I just took a leap at that point. Once you get into it, I was constantly focused on studies because, those are the 2 years where you really want to invest your time. Everything else you have time for, but those 2 years are never going to come back in your life. So I was fully focused there, and I was fortunately able to get through all the competitive exams. Like you have state level and IIT as well as AIEEE at that point. So I fortunately got some great colleges, COEP in Maharashtra, a few of the IITs at that point. And then I chose NIT Allahabad because it was considered to be the best, one of the best at least in North India, and I wanted to move to North India.
Right.
So I chose that.
Great. So why did you choose mechanical engineering in the first instance? People usually go behind computer science or IT. What was the reason behind choosing mechanical engineering at that point?
That's a great question. So at that point, I would say mechanical engineering was one of the most sought after branches. So it had the highest cutoff at that point. And a couple of my relatives, my cousin brothers convinced me it's an evergreen branch. And obviously there were a lot of jobs out there for mechanical engineering, and CS, IT were just in the beginning stages of the boom. Right. So I was convinced to pursue mechanical engineering, and I was also interested into physics, which got me interested into subjects for mechanical. So that way I chose mechanical engineering.
Great.
But yeah.
Right. So how do you feel that your decision went by taking mechanical engineering? How was your college life? How did it go? Did you like mechanical engineering? So yeah, tell me about that.
I think in retrospect, it's see, everything just falls into place. You can't reach here until you go through that. So I would say there's nothing wrong or right in this aspect, but I would say if I had chosen CS or IT or some kind of branch like that, maybe I would not have been here. The good parts about being a mechanical engineer is that you get to see the crux of all the branches. Since it's a core branch, you get to cover all the basics, how the engineering arena developed. Right. So that was the best part about it. And at certain point, I realized the lifestyle of a mechanical engineer, which is very prone to site visits and then working on the field, in most cases was not really suitable for me. Right. I was more inclined towards somewhere in a office and studying mathematics, research, analytics.
Right.
Which made me pursue higher studies, and somehow I ended up here, which I am sure we'll talk about later.
Got it. So how was your college life? Were you a studious student in college, or like how did it go? Did you have fun? Because usually we after school we have fun in the college life, right? So how was the college life?
It's like you're reading my mind. But that's true because especially during like college, as I said, like 11th and 12th, until then I was very much focused on academics. Although I was participating in all extracurricular activities, I think it was not really my focus. So one interesting thing in my college was I had decided I will try something new every year. Right. And the first year I took dance. I participated in the dance club. So that was the first time I had danced. So it was an amazing experience for me. It opened up myself. I was feeling much more confident, especially with my seniors who were very supportive. And the result was, by the end of final year, I was choreographing my juniors. So I feel blessed to have that opportunity. And I opened up to a lot of other aspects. Like the next year, I pursued football, which I had never played before.
Right.
And I was at the end kind of being the captain of the team we had. So that was a great experience. And these are the things that I still do. So I still pursue. It also gave me confidence to explore the unexplored wherever I am not. Even if I'm falling into a completely new segment, into a new field, I still feel okay. Like I don't get afraid or anything. Just pursue with what you have.
Wow, that's very interesting college life you had. Apart from studies, you have done a lot of things. Yeah, that's pretty great. So in your college life, did you have any inclination towards IT jobs earlier, or like at later point of stage, did you change your inclination towards IT jobs, or like how was your college placement scene at that point? What did you do? Exactly?
Interesting question. Because when you go to NIT, you kind of expect like placements are going to be great, like you are going to earn in lakhs and crores and whatnot. The reality is not at all like that. It depends. I mean, sometimes you do get those packages, but not always. So I would say when I joined college, it was a bit difficult for me to adjust the first few years since I was staying away from home for the first time. And I got really low scores in my first couple of years, like around 60s and 70s. And that transition from 90s to that 60s percentage was difficult for me, because of which I found it difficult to get a lot of focus and attention into my studies. In this regard, I was still okay. I didn't really look into CSIT aspects until the final year when placement started to happen. And we could see the difference, like mechanical engineering or some core jobs, core branches. The jobs were very limited, and even the ones that were there were having lot less package than CSIT jobs in comparisons. You could see like people having 3 jobs with one person,
Yeah, I got it.
while a mechanical guy is still waiting for the first job to get.
Right.
So that was the change.
Great. So how did you land up in your first job? So how did you get into business analytics role? So was it anything specific you looked for, or it just happened like that? So how was that journey?
Yeah, I think that at that point I was like a little inclined towards pursuing higher studies. And as I had realized mechanical is not something I would want to pursue further, I was thinking into management. So MBA was still on my horizon, although I had not yet decided exactly what to do there. I had a dilemma between government jobs and private jobs, but I had noticed that all the toppers or like the brilliant students of my class were going after this private sector because for us, I could see the opportunities there. And with the new segment, with the globalization that is happening, I could see like during our placements also, the roles that opened, the opportunities, everything that came. I got interested into private sector, and then Wells Fargo being the biggest bank in the world, at that point, I thought it's as good an opportunity as any. It was one of the first companies that I was eligible for. So since it was my first interview, I just pursued and got through the different rounds. They took HR rounds. They took like a lot of aptitude tests, which I was fortunately able to get through all of them. And I just landed the role of business analyst.
Right. Oh, that's a great thing. And did you face any difficulty with the technicalities? Because since we are from mechanical background and that's a tech role, right? So was there any difficulties bridging the gap between these two?
Absolutely. I would say there is a slight friction when you are moving from one segment to another. So they had this in mind. The company also considered this, that they are hiring from different branches. So they provided us a training for 2 months, which included different aspects of SQL, Python, Java, even ITIL, which gave you a good exposure to the corporate environment and the tools that we use. that transition period was smoothened because of this. Although you have to work a little harder than someone who already knows these things. So that was a bit difficult, but in the end, I think you can land through all of this.
Great. It's great that you learned all these skills after doing a mechanical engineering. And so, how was your time at Wells Fargo? So, what were the tools you were working on? So, how was your work? How much did you like it? So, how was it basically?
Interesting point. So for mechanical engineering to this corporate environment, I think that shift was again a bit of a cultural shock, because now you are interacting with all these global employees. You are working with in an MNC. You are working with people from all across the geography. So in this regard, I had to work with different tools related to data analysis. That was obviously one of the core roles, like core tasks for me. I had to work with other people. So stakeholder management, a bit of technical program management skills, because you have to design BRDs, business requirement documents. All of this stuff was quite intense initially. After a year or 1.5 years, you kind of understand the nitty-gritties of the job, and then you slightly get used to it. And that is the point when I felt, oh, okay, I think there's a bigger world out there. So now is the time to think about my higher studies that I have been keeping it in the back pocket. So that's where I started to think about my next steps.
Got it. So yeah, so again, an interesting question. Like when you were in a job, how did you get the thought of doing in higher studies? And I heard from you that you did GATE also and you did CAT also. So that's like pretty weird combination. So how did you what was the things going on in your mind, like when deciding between GATE or CAT, or you did both, right? And you got successful in both. So what was the process? Can you just let us know that?
Thank you, Harry, for the question. Yes, I would say it is definitely a weird combination. So honestly speaking, it was just with my friends that I had thought, like, we were just discussing, and I felt like, all of my friends had great scores, and I used to ask them during the exams, like, hey buddy, help me just prepare. I don't have any preparation for the exam. Can you just tell me the important topics so that I can at least get the basic scores? And at some point during this discussions, because all of my friends went into core jobs, so I felt like maybe I didn't take really the advantage of mechanical engineering that my college had offered. So I took like just the basics out of it. And being called a mechanical engineer, I had that part of my mind which felt like, okay, I didn't completely get that knowledge. So let's invest this whole year. Let's invest the second year just for the sake of knowledge, right? I had my MBA goal, which I thought, okay, let's push that ahead. Let's not think about it. Let's just focus on getting those 4 years back. If not the years, at least the knowledge. And that's where I thought of pursuing GATE in mechanical engineering.
Right. So when you're pursuing GATE, then didn't you have an idea of doing a master's related to core mechanical streams, or it just was it for the sake of learning mechanical engineering?
I would say, it's solely for like knowledge sake, because I would say it is weird. Like even if I think about it now, I find it weird. Like it was totally an impractical decision, right? It's if you're just learning for knowledge at that point when in your career building years, I think it was like a bit of a risk, but sometimes it just pays off. You have to follow your intuition at some point. So at that moment, I just felt like I have to understand my subjects. I need to know my subjects and learn about it. So it's okay. Like I invested around 4 to 5 months just to study my syllabus. I did like 3 months of extensive self-study. I had put in some coaching, but I never really attended because I didn't have time. And then at that point, I just self-studied, and then I got stuck. Like I covered the syllabus. Like since I had the 11th, 12th basics covered, the syllabus is quite easy for mechanical engineering. So even then, I could not go past a certain score. I was not able to crack that merit list. At that point, I called a senior of mine actually. So he had a rank in the top 50 in the previous year. And currently he's an IES officer. So he was like a close friend of mine, and he was a senior. So I just called him like, hey, there's 15 days left and my syllabus is over, but I somehow am not able to crack the merit list. Maybe you have any pointers. So at that point, this additional perspective helped amazingly. He gave me just one of the advice which stuck with me was just solve previous year papers. And that was what I did. Within a week, my just rank shot up and I got into the merit list. Maybe if I had talked to him like a month before, the rank would have been much, much higher. But yeah, it's okay. I was like thinking more about knowledge rather than the rank and everything. So all good in the end.
That's
kind of.
really great that you pursued a whole competitive exam just for gaining knowledge. So I would not say it's weird. It's very interesting to know how much curious you were about learning more stuff, which would have definitely paid you benefits in the later point of life. So okay, so after GATE, let's come to CAT.
Yes.
So how did you manage? Okay, initially I wanted to know how did you manage these preparations alongside work? How much hours did you spend? Like how did you manage your routine for these competitive exams?
Actually, for CAT, I would say I didn't really need a lot of preparation because it's mostly analytics and it's mostly about aptitude. So you know the formulae already, right? How to do a plus, minus, addition, subtraction, and all this. It's just like few tricks and tips that I think I studied like early on during the engineering also. Those are the things you catch on like when you are in with your peers who are very smart. So those things I caught up. But it was more about practice for me in terms of CAT. GATE was really the one I was focused on. So I used to have a afternoon shift. So I used to wake up early morning, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, study till 12, go to office, come back 8 o'clock. In the night, I don't really study. So I just used to revise like a couple of hours.
Right.
I try to sleep as early as possible, like 10, 11-ish. So this was my routine for 4 to 5 months. I think rather than the amount of hours or everything, the consistency helped me, right? So it was just 4 to 5 hours every day, but it was every day for 4 to 5 months.
Right.
So I didn't miss a day. I didn't miss a weekend. I didn't miss like anything. I didn't go home during that period. I missed all my family functions in that time. But yeah, I think eventually that's what helped me get that result.
But you said it very easily that consistently helped you, but that is the core thing which we miss out, right? So what was your mental makeup to keep yourself consistent throughout the process? Or how did you train yourself, or how did you keep yourself motivated? Because you might have a high days, you will study more, but you might also have lower days, right? So how did you push yourself on those days?
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. Okay. Honestly speaking, it's when I say that 4 hours every day consistency, I think everyone has a different motivation or a drive. In my case, it was also gaining knowledge, but also like, I used to feel, okay, all of my friends know everything about mechanical engineering, right? Like if Bernoulli's principle is asked, they know like on the tip of their tongue, like what it is exactly. So I was in that environment and I felt like, okay, this is something I need to know, right? This is like a basic which everyone knows, right? So that was one motivation. The second was like, okay, I am sacrificing 1 year for this exam. Because I'm doing this, I'm not pursuing my CAT preparation or even going into the top colleges for MBA. So that was the second motivation, which is like, if you don't do this, you're going to lose out a year, the money, the everything, right?
Yeah.
So that was another point. And these are the things which keep you motivated. And some days it's okay. If one day is bad, it's fine.
Right.
You just keep moving, and in the average of things, it will just balance out.
Yeah, that's a great lesson which we can learn from your journey, how to be consistent actually. And was it like you finished GATE, you got a score, then you pursued CAT, or was it happening parallelly?
Actually, in this case, I gave both the exams parallelly.
Right.
Because I was thinking like, okay, even though I am going to give CAT next year, it's okay. I still want to give this year so that I just get the feel of the exam, how it's going to be, where I stand in the competition. Right. That is very important, right? It's not that you have to get 100% marks. It's that you have to get the 100 percentile.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So I wanted to know where I stand. So I gave both exams. And CAT was, I think, before GATE. So I was able to just, I think I just spent a week for CAT preparation.
Right.
I just saw like the paper format and practice a bit because it was online.
Okay.
So I did that online practice and bit of offline practice just to make sure that I have everything in my mind when I go to the exam. Nothing else. Like I just went to the exam and I didn't get a great score, like because I was targeting like the top 3 ABC.
Right. Got it.
But what I got was like the next tier of IIMs.
Yeah.
Again, these are also great colleges. I got IIM Kozhikode and a few other IIMs.
Got it.
So I had to make a choice at that point between IIM Mumbai and IIM Kozhikode.
Got it.
Later on. So I think that's the part which was interesting because after you get these colleges, I chose IIM Mumbai for multiple reasons.
Right.
One is I stayed away from home. That was an experience which made me realize, okay, this time I want to be close to home. So Mumbai was like definite choice. Second, being in Mumbai was another location advantage, the industry exposure in Mumbai being, economical capital of the country. I think that opportunity kind of attracted me.
Right.
The last thing I would say was the campus itself was quite beautiful and I think I just preferred Mumbai for the city itself.
Great.
One last point, I think at IIM Mumbai, the fees was the least among all IIMs. So I had a choice in my mind, like it's either FMS or IIM Mumbai,
Okay.
and then everything else.
Got it. So you had your own criteria to sort it out.
Yes.
So was it like you cleared CAT in the first attempt and you got into, like you told, like you just had a very brief preparation for CAT and you got it into this IIM Mumbai in the first attempt, right? Am I
Yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Oh.
So I think I just gave that CAT, like even in my college, like when I was studying.
Right.
But that year I was not really gonna go for admissions
Right.
because I wanted to get the work experience before pursuing MBA.
Got
Again, it's a personal choice. People go as a fresher, which
Yeah.
is it's a good thing
Got
also.
it.
I think in my case, I was just like I wanted to get that exposure and just
Right.
go there.
Great.
So fortunately for me, I had that flexibility to take those decisions as I want. My parents were super supportive. My
Right.
mom, my dad, they were amazing in this regard. They were like, you just choose what you like and pursue what you want.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely important to have a very good support system to help you do what you want to do, because that is subconsciously going to motivate you to do things, right?
Exactly.
That's really great, Jenny. So now let's come to the interesting part. So how was your life at IIM Mumbai? So how did the course go? What all things you learned? So how was your journey there?
Man. So this is gonna be a long monologue. Please be ready, because I feel like even before like I got into MBA, the story was interesting from day -1. So what happened was like when I gave this exam, right? I had not really thought of going for admission because I was saying like, okay, I'll give the exam next year, get a better percentile, and then pursue IIM ABC or something like which is very top 3. So I was not even checking my emails, and then one day, just coincidentally, I opened one, and then they are like, "Oh, you have been given admission into IIM Mumbai. If you are interested, pay the fees within like 1 week or 2 weeks that were left." And then I was like, as soon as I saw the email, I was like, I really don't want to work anymore. I was bored of the job. On that day, I just felt that in my mind, and I called my dad, like, Dad, like, so I am getting this offer, and he just asked me one question: do you feel like staying in your job right now? And I was like, no, Dad, I feel like I want to change something.
Right.
So I want to pursue this. He was like, okay, go for it. That's it. And that's where I chose my admission. And then that's like admission process happened. At this point, when I stepped into the IIM campus, I had like, again, this is a bit personal, but I want to share it with everyone. Maybe you can relate. Because of my NIT background, everyone had a lot of hopes and expectations. Like, you're pursuing from NIT, you should have a great placement, you should have a great industry roles, experiences, everything. In my case, because of the adjustments to a completely different state, completely different culture, I had that blockades and I could not get the most out of my NIT experience.
Right.
So that was stuck in my mind. And this time I was very adamant that I want to get the best out of the best of this MBA. Because again, I had slightly pushed apart from my IIM ABC plan, and going to IIM Mumbai was again a decision which I had made. So I was thinking like, okay, now I am here. Now I can't compromise further. I have to get the best out of this. So that was my day 1.
Right.
And from there on, like we had a lot of activities in the first, as soon as you step into the campus, the seniors are very supportive. They lay out a huge syllabus for you. In that regard, I was like very focused. I used to study 14-15 hours easily, as in like studies plus all the activities that happen. They do mock interview practice, group discussion practices, some case study practices, so many things. Like it's very interesting actually.
Right.
So that exposure I got from day 1, and then fortunately for me, I was able to do well in all of them. So I was very comfortable in the MBA environment. Got to make extremely good friends during this journey. So throughout those 2 years, one of the toughest thing that I had was being a part of the placement committee. So getting selected itself was a rigorous process.
Right.
Fortunately, I got through that. And then once I got into that committee, it was a tremendous amount of work. So again, investing 14 plus hours, 12 plus hours easily through, because you are doing your classes, you're also doing your committee work, you're also doing your own personal stuff. Considering all of this, I was doing that sacrifice because I was putting in my energy, my time, everything to get the most out of it. And that is what helped me make my 2 years memorable, because now I have like my whole career ahead of me,
Yeah.
but those 2 years of MBA is just gone, right? I
Yeah.
can't again go there and take that opportunity. So fortunately for me, I was able to take most advantage of my MBA experience.
Great. That's a very interesting journey about your MBA. So, and how would you say, like, how much did your MBA help in shaping you as a person? So, what values did it add to you? So, can you give a brief about that?
That's a very insightful question, Harry. You're making me think a lot. All right. So I would say during my MBA, of course, it helped me tremendously. Like I can't even, I can't compare it with anything else. So I would say maybe to break it down into three fronts, right? First is like mentally speaking, I would say it gave me a lot of confidence because the exposure was tremendous. You know, you are dealing with the senior VPs of companies visiting your campus, you're coordinating with them, interacting with them directly. CEOs of very large multinational companies are coming and you're talking to them. You're convincing, you know, different companies to hire from your campuses, etc. All of these factors give you that confidence, that mental rigor, and you're putting in those hours to make sure you have covered everything and you're able to manage all of these different tasks that you have.
Right.
The second part I would say is in terms of education itself, I think yes, it does help. It's not necessary the theoretical knowledge, but the way you study and you understand the concepts, it's usually helpful during your regular day-to-day tasks, understanding the business angle of every work that you do. From an engineering perspective, it's completely different because engineering perspective focuses on the technology, while business perspective focuses on the output of that technology. So those are the additional insights, perspectives I got, which help me even today in my job. Like I get those extra questions like, we are doing this. I know how to do this, which is the engineering part. But why are we doing this, which is the business part, which helps me a lot to, you know, lead our team. And we have a, you know, bunch of people who kind of rely on me also to make sure we make the right business decisions. We're on the right direction. So that was tremendously helpful.
Okay.
And finally, I just want to end this with making amazing connections. So I have my friends who I still am in touch with today. So those like college friends are like completely different than the like currently what you have. So they are still in touch, and I got to make you know, brilliant. I met brilliant people. They are still in touch with me, and that experience I think was the most invaluable of this.
Great. That was pretty great exposure you have had in your MBA time. So that's really good. So did you have any internships opportunities when you were doing an MBA?
Absolutely. So the internship is after 1 year of MBA, you get 2 months period where you can do internship, summer internship with any of the companies. Usually the hiring starts as soon as you get into the college. Within a couple of months, the companies start visiting. For our college also, it was the campus placement, which gets wrapped up within 5 days pretty much. So you have those 5 days where 100 plus companies will be visiting and 500 or some 600 students are sitting for placement. So everyone is like very competitive. And for me, I had like a couple of companies in mind because I was into this like I wanted to get the most out of it. I was a bit competitive. I wanted to get the highest package. That's what you compare at that point, like, you know, best package means best company, which is not entirely true. So fortunately for us, Uber was one of the companies which was visiting, and it was offering great compensation, everything. So that was the first company I interviewed for, and yeah, for the first interview I just got selected, so I could not attend any other interviews. But in regards to that, I'll just share my interview experience with Uber. So they had a very different process because my first round with Uber was a analytical exam which was done on the computer. So they took an online test which wherein I had to learn all the Excel and formulas related to it. So again, data analytics related. So I was able to leverage that knowledge from past and pursue that exam. Eventually, they took the first round of interview, which was resume based. They constantly asked me about my questions. And fortunately for me, I had a senior, Mr. Vaibhav. He was very supportive during my preparation. So he helped me make sure that all of my questions are covered in the resume. Everything is fit in perfectly. The narrative I am able to communicate across. So eventually I passed through that. And last round was actually a focus round.
Okay.
So you have 5 people sitting in along with you who are giving the interview, and there are like 3 to 4 panelists who are going to ask you questions.
Right.
So they will go one after the other. Okay, you tell me what's the answer to this, and so on. So that was a bit tricky. But in that case, I was fortunately, apart from my regular studies, like, resume study, I had also studied a lot about the company itself, like what's new with Uber, who is the CEO, what are their new program launches, what's the business revenue stats currently. So those kind of pointers also helped me get confidence while answering the questions and to support my answers during the questions. So
Great.
all of this helped me get through the interview rounds. And I think, yeah, amazing experience with Uber internship. Fortunately, again, that was a analytics role. So I was able to, do the work and get the learnings from Uber as well.
Great. So you have added like a lot of perspectives to how to prepare for an interview. Rather than just going with the questions, you went to the company's website,
Yes.
looked into the company, or searched for a lot of things. So that's pretty an extensive preparation which you have done. So, so usually people doing an internship get the PPOs from the companies, right? So like, did you get any PPO from Uber, or how was that?
Oh, you just that was the sad point, because I put in a lot of hours during the internship, because I had in mind like, okay, Uber is giving the highest package in my campus, so I have to get a PPO from Uber. And we had a lot of people from IIM ABC, like other colleges, MDI and IIM Mumbai. So all of us were like into this. Unfortunately, I didn't get a PPO. I was working in the Uber Eats domain, and during that year, Uber Eats got sold off by Uber, so they didn't really have any openings. So, like, even irrespective of my performance, I didn't get a PPO.
Right.
Still, I felt sad, and I think eventually it was okay, because like they were not really offering much PPOs. They just offered like a couple of them, and for me, it was like a sad time, but I had to get past it. And then I focused on my final placements.
Great. Okay. So that led you to Google later.
Yeah.
So let's come to that interesting part. So how did you get an opportunity to interview to Google? So was it an on-campus placement, or did you approach it anywhere else?
Yeah. So Google was my on-campus placement. So we had during my final placement. So obviously those who are not placed, not everyone will get a PPO, right? There's
Right,
only
yeah.
selected few who get, depending on the company's openings and the offer that they give. For us, during my final placements, I had a lot of consulting companies in mind, but I was not very keen into that. I was more into, let's try something which is dynamic, which is more innovative in this current situation, in this current days. And I felt tech sector was my calling, because the way the innovation happens, I could relate to it, right? I was like using computers since my childhood, and I have been familiar with software. So since then, because of this, I was like, okay. At that point, by the way, Google had not visited the previous year. So I was not expecting Google to come. Just before the placements, somebody like the placement team floated the form like, okay, Google is visiting the campus for so and so role, and they are going to offer XYZ package and everything, right? So I felt, oh wow, this is like a perfect opportunity, right? A great company. And one of my things, my requirements was to work with good people. That was what I had in mind when I was thinking about career.
Right.
So Google fit perfectly into this.
Right.
Which is why I focused all of my preparation on Google.
Right.
I was like, either I get placed in Google, so I will put all of my preparation into this. If I don't get, then it's probably the last company, because the middle companies, I don't have time to prepare for them. So that was a huge risk that I was taking.
Right.
Before placements, the 15 days that time I had, I put in time for preparing Google. Like, this preparation was interesting because I knew the whole batch is sitting for this company, and this batch is cream de la cream of the country, right? So you have to do something extraordinary to get selected among all of this.
Got it.
The few so if I may explain the few things that I did.
Obviously.
The first thing is like basics, right? You do your resume preparation, you do your interview Googling, right? What kind of questions are asked, those kind of things. Just to be clear, these are basics. That is what everyone is doing. After that is when the competition starts. In my case, when I did my resume and all of these studies, I realized like I need additional perspective. So while walking through the resume, I just started calling like, okay, my first job, Wells Fargo. I just called my manager, my mentor, one by one. hey, I am like currently doing MBA.
Hmm.
It's just nice catching up with you after a long time.
Right.
How you're doing? And Google's interview is coming up. I was hoping you could give me some feedback about my job, the days we worked together,
Right.
positives, negatives, everything that you can tell me about. And they were very kind. Like they were telling me all the positive aspects, obviously, but also gave me like constructive criticism. Like, okay, Amit, you did this really well during this project, but here's something which you could have done even better. So those are the things that clicked my mind, and I kept those in mind and try to improve on those in that limited time. Same thing with few other like Uber internship. And fortunately for my Uber internship, the manager that I had, I contacted him, who said like, okay, oh, you're interviewing for Google. I know someone who works for Google.
Okay.
And then he gave me the contact of this other person. And when I called him, he was like, oh, really? Oh, you're interviewing for this job? Oh, let me contact someone else who I know in this domain.
Right.
And so on and so forth. Like the last person, I had no clue who that person is. He had no idea about me. But then we just talked, and we just talked about his day-to-day work, like what he does. So it was related to this role, particular one that was opened in our college.
Right.
So I had some idea of how the like work happens in Google, how the culture is, what are the products that they are looking after, and how they think about the work in general. Overall perspective helped me get that confidence and that understanding.
Great. So you made a great leverage of the network you had already, so you could reach out to people and get more perspective on. That's like pretty, like very few people do that, to reach out to a network and ask more questions. So that's pretty good that you have done it. And so like, is this much your Google preparation, or do you have anything more extensive to share with us, how you prepared for the Google interview? Because you told you spent your most of the time there. So can you share some tips for us on that?
Yeah, that's one. I'm glad that you asked, because this reminds me of one more thing that I did. The job description is crucial. People focus on the supply side, not the demand side. People focus a lot on their own resume and what they have, but you should also look at the other person's requirement. Like look at the job description. In my case, the job description was one pager. Within those 15 days, I noted down everything in that JD. There were like 12 to 15 courses, and there were few other requirements. So I made sure that I studied and completed pretty much all the courses. Like there are 2 hours courses which online, which you can just gives you a basic idea of everything. Obviously I knew most of them, but that refresher was very important to get that understanding. So I made sure that I understand the JD in and out, like what they are expecting, what they want, and how I am a good fit for them. So that relating and matching is crucial. It's not just like you give everything and leave it to them, like, okay, pick the best of me.
Right.
It's that you have to give them what they need, right? It's a matching process. It's not who is the best or not. Who is the best fit is what they're looking for.
Right. So that's a very interesting perspective to look into job description. And also, like you told, like a lot of people miss out on that part, and they tell their resume doesn't get shortlisted. So did you inculcate the job description into your resume or something like that? Did you tune it based on the job description? Did you tune your resume based on that?
Absolutely. I mean, your resume is obviously there. The idea of the resume is to give an insight into your experiences and past for the interviewer, so that they can understand you better and understand how you are relevant to the role. So what I did was, obviously, my resume was quite general. So I adjusted a few like language points, which is related to the job descriptions. Those highlights that you do, right? Some of the points that you bold, and those small things, those changes that I made. But it does make a difference. You need to go to that extra mile if you are like competing with such a high caliber badge. So those are the things which helped me. And eventually I think it did help, because my resume was shortlisted. And resume shortlisting is like tough, because out of 600 or so people, only 25 to 30 resumes were shortlisted. So that's a major win over there first.
Thanks for sharing that perspective. That's pretty great. So like, let's come to the interview part. Like, how were your Google interviews? So what were things assessed, and how did you feel about the interviews? Like very, very confident, or how did it go?
Wow. I think it's been a few years now. So when I was interviewing, I felt this is impossible thing to do. Of course, I was nervous. I was very, very nervous. I did call one of my seniors who was in Google, and I just talked to him, and he was like, "Oh, don't worry, it's just a job. Just talk about yourself. This is a great opportunity to just show off yourself." So that was like a good talk, and then I felt, okay, calm down. And I told him like, hey, if you're okay, I'll just call you after interviews. Just to get that sanity of my mind.
Right.
If you're okay. Then he was like supportive. Yes, no problem. Just talk to me whenever you need. The day of interview, we had 3 rounds, Google interviews. So the first round, of course, once the resume shortlisting is done, 25 to 30 people will attend the first round, which was more focused on your resume, past experiences,
Right.
what projects you did, what kind of work you have done. Based on that, they might ask questions. For me, obviously I was nervous, and then I think like I did not do my best. Obviously, I didn't do bad, but it was not my best still.
Right.
So after the interview, I called my senior and told him, okay, I did, this kind of answers, this kind of questions were asked to me. The senior gave me some insights. Oh, okay, really, and this is nice, but you can also present it in a much better way, right? Give it a point-wise format or a structure to the answer rather than giving a prose answer. Those kind of pointers were really helpful. So we had a second round of interview in the afternoon. In analyst role, I was like, sure, they might ask me some very high-level mathematics stuff. So when I went in, I was like, okay, there's nothing to lose. Now everything is done. So let's just do our best. I got really tough questions at that point because they were open-ended questions wherein you have to think a lot. You have to give answers, and cross questions were coming. Okay, why are you doing this? Why not this? So that was important. Like when you answer, you just don't answer bluntly, right? Make sure you have a clear thought process. You're not just giving a solution. Also make sure you understand the risks associated with that solution.
Right.
So I was able to get that overall perspective to every answer. So I was not very narrow focused where I just answered the question. I was able to tell them more than that question. Okay, why we are doing that?
Right.
What are the risks? How can we do it better? Right. Those things. And I think the last round was a VP round. So a very senior executive from Google was doing an online round.
Right.
And it was at like night sometime, and I was super tired because I hadn't eaten anything during the day. I was scared to go anywhere if I lose my chance of interview, so I didn't want to do that.
Right.
So I just sat there, and then I was able to just give some interview. I was not, again, at my best in the evening, but I think that I just made through that round, and finally, I think after a week or so, they just confirmed the selection.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting process. And successfully, you made it into Google. And
and like they were like they said just one person is selected.
Yeah.
So I think the final round was 6 people. So all 6 of us were curious, like, oh, okay, one person, who will it be? Who will it be? So they made us wait a week until they sent the name.
Great. That's pretty great journey. So one thing which you have been constantly telling is that you had like few mentors or seniors who consistently helped you throughout the process. At some point in time, they came up at some place, you reached out to them and they helped you in some aspect. So how much would you value the role of a mentor in a person's journey, and how much would you value that? Yeah.
That's a brilliant observation, Harry. Even I didn't realize it myself, but thanks for pointing it out. I would say in regards to this, I think a mentor's role is crucial, and that mentor can be in any format, in any form. Could be a person, could be your senior, could be your brother, parent, could be your friend, could be just a book.
Right.
Also can be a mentor. Like you don't know where you can get that mentorship from. Could be your YouTube videos or something, right? So that is unclear. But mentorship is crucial because it gives you that direction. Like I said, right, I did everything in my capacity to study for my GATE exam, but I was stuck at one point.
Right.
And that senior's one line advice just changed the whole game.
Right.
So I feel like, yes, it's a combination of everything. And just try to do your best, not just in your studies. Keep an open mind. Try to balance your life, because all of these mentors, I did not make any of these mentors just because of my studies.
Right.
It was like one of my mentors, like the one I talked about in my college, like BTech college, was because of the dance club.
Right.
The second mentor was because of the placement committee.
Great.
So something else entirely, like, so don't ignore completely the rest, other aspects of life. Be active, be open, reach out to people, and try to help others. The help will come to you eventually.
Right.
So don't worry about this.
That's like pretty great insight which we can take from your journey actually. So yeah, let's come to life at Google. So how did you feel when you joined Google, when you came first to the office? So how was all the experiences? So, and we also hear that we have imposter syndromes when we join Google, right? So how was your journey with respect to that?
Thanks for the question. This is a great question. I'll take a couple of steps back because when I got the offer from Google during my college campus, I was like exhilarated because obviously this is like an amazing job that you're landing, and getting a job itself was super. I was super happy to get that at that point. And then I told my parents, told my friends. Obviously, friends were after me. We want a party today only, so I had to give them party. But all of this considered, and then it was like first placement in the final placement for our college. So again, I was very happy, and because of this I felt like, oh, super confident. Okay, I cracked one of the toughest companies, and I was like on another high. So I was able to do well, and then when I joined Google, day one I was very excited to do everything. And the Google team was super nice. Like they had a batch of around 10 to 12 people like us, who were selected that year. All of us were given introductions and some nice goodies and gifts. And so we had this welcome program from the Google induction team, which I was super happy. They were very nice. And that was the best part I liked about it, because I wanted to be in an environment where you feel welcome, you feel encouraged, because I feel environment is super important. The skills and everything else comes from within, which everyone has that potential. Right. So I was happy about that. Since you asked about how the life is at Google, within a couple of months, when the actual work started, right, you get a few days to train and study a few things. Yeah. But when the actual work started, all my high just came back to down. Okay. So yeah, because just to give you an example, my buddy who was assigned to me, the buddy is supposed to train you and just give you that guidance. He has a PhD from one of the best colleges in the world. So I used to think, right, like I'm doing like NIT, IIM, all of this. Oh man, it's not nowhere near there. Right. And forget the degrees, right? They were super down to earth. They were, you never realized like they had such exemplary profile. I saw that myself. That's when I got to know. Right. But that person never told me about all of this. It was just during the work I felt like he had that kind of amazing knowledge and that passion and rigor to work hard and get things done. Great. Which was, and that's when I realized, okay, where I have reached as success is just the beginning for these people. Right. So that's where what you said, the imposter syndrome comes into picture. I think like it's something which all Googlers have in common. Right. Like everyone feels that way. Yeah. And I think it's okay, because it is expected when you work at Google. There are people who are exceptional in their fields, and obviously everyone is super talented, super smart, because of which I was again through the same thing. And at a later point I was like, check it, right? Everyone is smart. I'm not gonna be smarter than them. So let's just do my thing. Okay. What I can do, and I'll just do my best. That's it. Great. So those first year, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna survive this job, but let me try my best. If I'm going out, let me go out on a high. Right. And I used to talk to my manager. Then he realized like, okay. Eventually, after 1 year, I felt like my performance was getting better and better. So that sort of started building my confidence back. Right. Like, okay, it's not just like everyone is smart. I am also smart in some things. Right. So, okay, those are the areas I focus on, make sure I do my job well, learn new things, interact with people. Right. But couple of years was work from home. So I really missed that office space, office environment, because that I feel like accelerates your learning curve and also gives you that exposure of intangible things. Right, you don't interact with person in person when you're at home, so that body gestures, the language, and the whole positive vibe is missing at some points. Is what I personally felt. So when I got the chance after 2 years, you're called to office, I took that chance. I just came back to office, and that's when I got to meet all of the amazing people we have here. Great. Yeah, and today if I talk about my job, like coming to how life is at Google. Yes, the initial part, of course, is super exciting because you have these new things, right? You are flying maybe for your business work and you are doing some interesting projects, new projects. So all of that is interesting. But even after 4 years, I feel, it's almost 4 years now, I feel that Google has still that kind of newness to it in terms of work. Of course, there is project, but now the projects are evolved. Like I am getting slightly more responsibilities, more accountability, different nature of work also. And apart from that, I also feel like personal life has also changed a lot for everyone, right? And things are moving in your personal life. So Google has been evolving as well for me. The way they give the flexibility of timings, of location, of work from home.
Right.
So I feel like that kind of sync is very essential if you want to progress in your career while balancing out your personal life. So I think the best part about Google is the flexibility,
Right.
which gives me the balance in life, which is what I really want.
So yeah, that's very interesting journey you had at Google. I mean, so can you just tell your best moments at Google, like maybe one or two which you had, like can recall any time and you feel happy about it?
Oh, Hari, you ask really tough questions. The thing is, like with Google, I had great moments, a lot of them. But the ones that really stuck out to me are a few of them. I'll try to tell them in
Yeah.
chronology.
Yeah.
So the first one was like meeting my team for the first time.
Right.
Being in Google, it's a global company. That's one thing you have to keep in mind. I was the only one working in India when I joined the team, and then rest of the team was in US or
Okay.
Singapore or
Right.
somewhere else. So there was an event where all of the team was invited to
Okay.
Hyderabad,
Right.
and that team offsite, I met people for the first time. It was
Right.
amazing. Like we went out, had a party, good food, everything
Right.
we
Right.
enjoyed.
Great.
So that kind of created that bond, friendship also outside of work, which I feel is very important apart from work that you should have in life.
Right.
Secondly, I would say with the nature of my work, I get to travel quite once in a while frequently to make sure the business is running smoothly. So my first flight experience was with Google. Like, fortunately, I don't know, it was just coincidence. Like
Right.
whenever I tried to book a flight, it's always like I was either close to home, so
Right.
flight doesn't make sense or
Right.
something. So eventually, turns out like when I joined Google, that's when I took my first flight.
Right.
And even more than that, I had my first international flight with Google.
Okay. Great.
That was a moment to remember. The first business trip was to London,
Right.
so UK, and I got to go there. I think the trip was memorable from the day one. Like, so when I went to London, I actually met a lot of my teammates, and even one of the best highlights of my Google career, I would say, was meeting Sundar Pichai. So,
That's a great opportunity. Yeah.
it was unexpected, and yeah, I think it was one of the best moments. I had been thinking about it, like when I joined Google, like okay, I'll meet Sundar Pichai someday. Maybe, I don't know,
Right.
but I got to meet him one-on-one, and then I got to talk to him.
Right.
Very down-to-earth person, and I was so, like, I feel fortunate, and I would say that definitely one of my career highlights at Google. Like, because the reason I say is it is meeting that person as a celebrity is one thing for sure. Like you meet someone, so
Right.
well accomplished.
Correct.
You have that in mind. Okay, just to boast of like, I met Sundar Pichai and everything. The part that stuck with me was meeting him in person made me realize, like, just opened up my mind a lot. Realizing that he's a person just like every other person you have in your office. And the way he talked, the way he was humble and able to answer me as well and give me that kind of attention when I'm asking some questions, so made me realize, like, oh, this world is so small.
Right.
It's not that being a CEO or something is unachievable. There are people who might have gone through the same journey that you
Right.
have, and you can also reach there.
Right.
Of course, like, it's depends on everything else, like
Got
multiple
it.
factors in your life,
Right.
but there's nothing limiting you from getting there.
Got
So
it.
that was really good, which I felt, you should experience this in life. So it just opens up your mind a lot more.
Those are like very great experiences which you've had at Google. Like, let's go to the end of the session. Like, reflecting back, do you think the stream in your bachelor's like impacted any way the thing you pursued a career later point? Like, we had a mechanical stream. Like, do you think that impacts a lot, or you think skills are like which you can learn at any point in time and you can just pick it up and go to like later jobs? So what's your perspective on that?
Wow. Amazing question, Hari. I think this is one of the best questions of this session. I would say it doesn't necessarily matter because when I was studying mechanical engineering, previous to that, I was studying like 11th, 12th syllabus. Now you think about it, right? Like, mitochondria is the powerhouse of a cell. Don't need it anywhere, right? Or even other things like Pythagoras theorem. You don't really use it in your day-to-day activities. So all of this knowledge may not really help you, but that process is crucial because it gives you that ability to solve problems, ambiguous situations, how can they be tackled. So that is the process which I feel is more important rather than the specific knowledge
Got it.
of things. knowledge is something you can pick up, and especially with Google now, you can just search things.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot. And even now, when I see, okay, I chose, science stream. I did PCM group in my 12th, got into NIT engineering, then MBA and so on here. But I see a lot of my colleagues who didn't go through this approach. They did something else. Maybe they did BSc, B economics or something, some other fields,
Right.
or maybe not even engineering or completely different. They are still here, right? And they are doing a great job at Google. So I feel like if I was not into mechanical, maybe CSIT, I would have still probably worked like 14 or 15 hours.
Right.
If I was not in MBA, maybe I was in some other job. I would have done same way to reach here. Right. So the paths could have been different, but I just ended up here. And I think it's all about the process. As long as you keep putting your time and energy into the process, it will take you to different heights. So just make sure you put in the effort, irrespective of where you are, what you're doing, and how you're doing it.
Great. Those are great words which we need to remember to keep us going forward. Yes. So finally, do you want to give any piece of advice or a tip to students who are preparing for data analytics roles and who are starting their career early? So do you have anything which you want to say to the students and professionals preparing in data analytics domain?
Absolutely. I think this is super important. Yeah. I hope the whole session was useful for you. But I would say there are few things please keep in mind. One is basics has to be covered. You can't ignore the basics and just jump the queue to get some additional points. Make sure you know your role, whatever you have done in the past. You should have a full understanding of that. If you are doing your job, make sure you know it thoroughly, whatever aspects of the job you really need in your life. Apart from that, then take the extra steps. Make some good mentors in life. Reach out to them. Do not hesitate. People are very helpful. Even today, a lot of people reach out to me and I am super happy to help them. It gives me immense pleasure to do that as well. So do not hesitate. Reach out to people. They will help you. And apart from this, try to do something which is really good for the other person. Don't always think while going for a job like, okay, this is something I want. I will get big salary and stuff. Try to think why the other person is hiring. What is something that you can offer to that person? So they are giving you that opportunity. So it's your duty to provide something of value to them as well. So with these perspectives, try to put in your honest best effort. And data analytics is an amazing field. There is tremendous amount of opportunity here. I'm sure you will find something, but make sure you give your honest effort, and I'm sure you will land in the best possible place.
Wow, those are very valuable insights and tips you have given to the students. Amit, thank you so much for giving that. And I will mention Amit's LinkedIn below. You can just reach out to him if you have any other doubts in the domain or about any other things. So thank you so much, Amit. Thank you so much for giving your time for the podcast. I'm really happy for this. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for your patience to listen to me. And again, thank you for this amazing opportunity to talk about my experience. I hope this really helps everyone out there. And I try to share my best. Please let me know if anything else is needed. And thank you again for this.
Thank you so much.